Ooh, hello everyone. That's a little better. What's shaking, everyone? How's everyone doing today? Hope you had a killer 4th. Hope it was safe. Hope you didn't lose any limbs. Yeah, got all mine, so that's good. Yeah, man. Let's see, you know what? It's always so hard to control this music. Let's see. Yep, it's either that or off. Huh. All right. Whatever. We'll leave it there for a couple minutes. Hello, everyone. Cameron T, Captain Zeep, Brandy Phillips, Aram95, Brian Ibach, Justin S. Let us get it on, indeed. I want to squeeze this show in before Cambion starts tonight. I think he's interviewing Jeremy McGowan, if I'm not mistaken. So that should be a fun show. So I wanted to go over, obviously, the title of the show. I'll just get right into it. Wanted to go over Mike Gallagher on the Pat McAfee show. And really pay attention to what he's saying and what he's putting on the table here, because a lot of folks are using this as like some, you know, again, like some touchdown dance for disclosure. I think a few months ago, this definitely would have excited me just as much as it excites folks now. But even when I was at my most excited, I still noticed little things like this. And so all I would say is, obviously I can't prove I'm right. You guys, well, actually I can, because there is no proof from your side of the argument, from the believer side of the argument when it comes to UFOs. There's zero proof. I don't have to prove my side of the argument. You have to prove yours. That's the extraordinary claim. So to prove that extraordinary claim, you need extraordinary evidence. I don't make up the rules. That's just the way it is. No offense. So what I would suggest to believers and to skeptics is to manage your expectations. Manage them as best as you can, but in particular, pay attention to exactly what a lawmaker is telling the average American who clearly shows, especially in this case, that he knows nothing about someone who's been on his show now, I believe at least twice, if not 3 times, to talk about what he calls, Mike Gallagher calls in this discussion, the alien bill, just for lack of better terms, because that's what they're talking about specifically when it comes to Arrow, I guess. But there's a lot of interesting things that he says that are setting up the table. So when it's not aliens, when it's not extraterrestrial beings visiting the planet, or ultra terrestrials, or people from the future, or whatever we want to classify as the phenomenon, when it turns out that Arrow and the congressional committees that look into this, and all of the laws that they wrote, and all of the money that they spent, if it comes back with nothing, are you going to believe it? Or are you going to fight it? These are the people you're championing now. Right now, today, you're championing folks like Mike Gallagher. You're championing folks like Senator Kirsten Gillibrand and Marco Rubio. But if you really listen to what they're saying, they're setting up, they have the failsafe. So that way, when you guys get angry, when this information does eventually hit and the dust settles on this conversation, obviously there's going to be only 1 or 2 things as far as the UFO community is concerned that's going to come out of this. Truth, disclosure, alien vehicles, reverse engineered programs. I was right. Or there's nothing to it and it turns out to be adversarial, not enough data, and or drones, trash, etc. Misidentification is a big one. I should probably just throw that one in there. So with that said, I wanted to talk about this interview in particular and just go through it. It's only 22 minutes long. We should be done way before Camion starts and McGowan start. But yeah, so let's do it. Let's see here. What are you guys saying in the chat about Cahill? Commander David Fravor was just on. Yeah, I saw that. I didn't listen to it. I didn't listen to it. I'm happy I got your name right. So yeah, let's do it. Let's listen to this.
This guy does stuff.
Yes, he does.
I believe, I don't know if it's I don't know the fucking titles of it. I don't know if he's in the House. I don't know if he's in the...
Oh, by the way, I should probably let everyone know that this is fair use. It is, let me just pull it up here so I get it right. Fair use. This is transformative work. We are educating the public and critiquing the videos we are sharing. This is covered under fair use and allowable by law. This is the Pat McAfee Show. I'm going to include the link not only in the live chat right now, so you guys can check out the whole thing for yourself if you want to. If it lets me copy for some reason. It doesn't let me copy. There we go. Let me do it this way. Let me do it the old-fashioned way. There you guys. So if you guys want to bookmark that, you can. And then I'm also going to put it in the description of the video right now. Let me update. Oh, you have to put the link in there. All right. All right, so now that's updated. I just want to get that updated so I don't forget. All right, here we go.
In the Senate. I don't know what his actual job is. I have no idea. He's a congressman who was able to ask questions to somebody that was supposed to have all the answers whenever it came to UFOs and aliens. After the Pentagon had decided to release some stuff, we thought we were going to get some real information. We didn't get shit out of that whole thing. But we did learn about was this man out of Wisconsin's 8th Congressional District.
Hell yeah.
Marine, Congressman Mike Gallagher.
What an honor to be here. My gosh. This is awesome, guys.
You look fantastic.
Congressman, the shirt on.
I mean, we've covered Pat McAffee before. He's a meathead. He's a self-professed meathead. I mean, again, he didn't even know if he was a congressman or a senator. He had to read the cue card to make sure that he had all of his bona fides correct, which is fine. I mean, like, that's okay on a show in this sort of setting, but I mean, you figure you want to know the congressman's name that's coming on your show to talk about apparently a topic you're super interested in. You know, a guy like Pat McAfee, shit, man, if he wanted to do a big fun home, holy cow, that'd be insane. And a ton of people would call. Could you imagine? Anyway.
Honestly, that was, I mean, that was a part of the conversation. That was part of the conversation last time. Because,
What I wear.
Yeah, I understand. I didn't know this about Congressman, but as soon as you walked in, big pop out of everybody.
Oh, yeah.
That is what you choose to wear, and we'll dive into that, obviously.
We got extras in the back.
Very nice of you. Thank you.
God.
Very, very nice of you. All right, let's dive into this. You have been incredibly kind to us. You have reached out to me to keep my eyes peeled for potentially something that's coming when it comes to UFOs and aliens and everything like that. With what just took place allegedly in Vegas and everything else that seemingly be smoke everywhere with this, are we anywhere near a time where you think, from the information that you have as a congressman, which I still don't know what the fuck that is, but as a congressman, are we going to get any info, you think? Is this really going to be something in our life soon, you think?
Yeah.
Here's what I do love about the Pat McAfee show and having people like Congressman Mike Gallagher on there is that these are everyday questions. These are people outside of the UFO discussion. They're outside of UFO Twitter, and they are asking the questions that they're really curious. And like, this is what the average Joe is going to ask if aliens turn out to be the answer, right? These are the questions they're going to ask. They're going to be concerned about the aliens, the races, what they're doing, like things like that. So I do appreciate that aspect of it, because obviously Mike Gallagher is comfortable in this situation. He's wearing, a meme shirt of the Chinese communist leader. I'm forgetting his name right now, but he works on subcommittees and committees that have to do with national security and making sure we are ready for the eventual war with China. So, the fact that he's here on the show, if he feels relaxed, he feels a lot looser than he would if he was in a shirt and tie answering these kind of questions on Fox News, etc. So from that aspect, I feel like this is actually useful in a lot of ways. So let's see what he says to this question.
Yeah, I actually do. So if you
I just wanted to add, when Pat McAfee references Vegas, he's talking about that bogus Vegas UFO sighting from that kid that made up the story about the aliens in his backyard, and he called the cops. And at the same time, just so happens to be there was a comet landing in that exact same neighborhood, witnessed by the police as that call came in. It was either wonderful coincidence or somebody taking advantage of something they saw. and playing the gullibility of people like Pat McAfee, who read that headline, probably didn't read the whole story, probably didn't look. If he did, he didn't look into it past that headline story, and now he's asking and referencing something that is clearly a hoax. Like, without a doubt, 100% a hoax. So, yeah, sorry. Now let us continue.
So if you think about what we've done since I was last on the show, we had that hearing, which I think everyone agrees was completely unsatisfying. We didn't get any answers. I asked some basic questions about historical incidents they couldn't answer. So what do we do after that? We actually passed with Senator Rubio and Senator Gillibrand in the Senate. So I'm in the House. They're in the Senate. There's two aspects of Congress.
Boom. Okay.
House
There it is.
All right. There's
Boom.
electoral college, too. This thing's crazy.
Right. You got a president. You got
Executive, I believe,
court,
branch.
Schoolhouse Rock. It's crazy.
Got it. Yeah, figured it out. We're there.
So we passed the big aliens bill. And so this aliens bill did a few key things. One,
It's funny. It's not an alien bill. That's another thing here too, is he's kind of throwing around where I don't know if he's just so relaxed that he's saying alien bill to just sort of relate and not call it the National Defense Authorization Act and a bill within that act that enables us to do these things that he's about to list. It is also, I feel like, a former Marine and congressman's job to, if there's a way to add smoke or some sort of mud to our own technology, ours being the United States, and being able to cover that up with stories like this, wouldn't put it past the congressman on an intelligence committee that he serves on. Wouldn't put it past them at all to do stuff like that. He hates China. He absolutely hates China so much. But it is interesting that, well, yeah, let's continue.
it created a one-stop shop for all UAP reporting, something called ARROW, the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office. So if somebody has information they think is relevant, if somebody's working in the intelligence community, if someone is working for a defense contractor and they have information related to UAPs, they can report it to ARROW, which is critical. We also task ARROW with doing a bunch of homework, so doing a historical report on every incident going back to 1945, because again, they couldn't answer basic questions about the Malmstrom incident. So ARROW.
By the way, the Malmstrom incident that happened in the 60s with Robert Salas. So that's red flag number one. Is obviously he's relaying this information based off the testimony of Robert Salas, to which ARROW, if you heard that part of the interview that they played on the Matt Ford show, Robert Salas brought us a segment of the interview that ARROW had with him, and in that interview, ARROW, the members of ARROW that were asking him questions were basically like, dude, this happened 60 years ago. Like, these files that you want us to look up, these things that you want us to pull, they're impossible to find. They're gone. In all likelihood, all of those files, all of those things are gone. And when they looked into them, they can't find any of the things that Robert Salas is talking about in regards to the Malmstrom incident. And that's not a conspiracy. That's not a cover-up. That's just 60 years of paperwork lost and God knows where. And also, a lot of these documents and files get destroyed. I mean, we've talked about that back in the UCR days. That's a common practice within the federal government to make room for new files. It's not uncommon. So, and yeah, B. Baker says Malmstrom was BS. There's literally no proof of the incident, and it's likely that the people above ground were just messing with Salas. It's very likely. Salas never actually had eyes on the craft. And then we come to find out that later Salas was abducted by aliens, and he was written, I believe, at least 2 books, maybe 3. He's definitely revised one of them at least 3 or 4 times. So it's just, he's a grifter, man. He's a grifter, and he gets really angry when you ask him pressing questions about that incident. It's It's funny. So that's red flag number one.
Arrow owes us a bunch of reports looking through the historical records. And then most importantly, and this is absolutely critical, we created kind of the mother of all whistleblower processes where if you want to come forward, but you're afraid of being punished or afraid of breaking what's called a non-disclosure agreement, an NDA, we have a process where you can talk to Congress or you can talk to Arrow and say, hey, I saw this, I saw that, I was part of this program. And so that was a monumental piece of legislation. And what's happened since we passed that is all sorts of
How
people
many?
Are coming out of the woodwork.
How many people you think? Like, we're talking hundreds, tens?
For the whistleblowers that we've spoken to in Congress, I can't talk about who they are or the precise numbers, but we have had people come forward. Senator Rubio talked about a few people that he's talked to last night, I think, in a public forum that he had.
So the old rules were...
Give us a number. How many? Because if it's 15 or around that number, I'm worried for you UFO believers. I'm really worried for you because I have a feeling it's going to be people like Ryan Graves. It's going to be people that we've already seen before in this conversation, but Gary Nolan, I think we might get another David Grush type where it's just stories and none of it's verifiable. And people that have come forward so far, some of them have not checked out from a national security perspective. They didn't pass the security check, so their testimony is not even considered. That's a good question. How many people? That's why I love this. It's because if it's hundreds, holy shit! Now that's something to. If it was hundreds of people, which it should be, if this legislation's in place, if this green light has been given, and people are actually working on reverse engineered craft within our government and black projects that Congress has no oversight on, there should be hundreds of people coming out. Where are they? The fact that he went from hundreds, I mean, let's replay that. That was an interesting, and I love how he just delays. You could give us the number, a rough estimate. 10, 15, around 15, around 20, around 100. How many?
Mental piece of legislation. And what's happened since we passed that is all sorts of
How
people
many?
are coming
All
out of the
sorts
woodwork.
of people. All sorts of people. How many? Look at what, I mean, this is a good moment.
Of legislation. And what's happened since we passed that is all sorts of
How
people
many?
Are coming out of the woodwork.
How many people you think? Like, we're talking hundreds, tens?
For the whistleblowers that we've spoken to in Congress, I can't talk about who they are or the precise numbers, but we have had people come forward. Senator Rubio talked about a few people.
Now it's a few people. All sorts of people. A few people. And it wasn't me, it was Rubio. He's the senator. He's actually on the security committees that matter. Trust me, bro. Trust me, bro. I mean, look at my shirt. Trust me, bro. Okay.
People that he's talked to last night, I think, in a public forum that he had.
So the old rules were, whenever you'd see something, you'd have to report it chain of command, obviously, and then you sign an NDA, you'll never talk about this again. I think there's a lot of documentaries that kind of have people that say, I was told directly not to talk about this, and then they're on the documentaries, either their faces or things, or their voices are kind of diluted. Now you guys are saying you can break the NDA that you were told by one point, come to tell us because we need the information. Why is now the time we need the information more than ever before?
Also, where's Bob Lazar? That should be the number one whistleblower going to Congress right now. Right now. Jeremy Corbell, George Knapp. Where is Bob Lazar? Where is Bob Lazar? He has a piece of element 115 according to you guys. And according to him. He should be the most important piece in this entire conversation. Right? Right? Believers? Right? Believers? Where's Bob Lazar? With this beautiful legislation where a whole bunch of, few How many? How many people? A few. Rubio. Ask Rubio.
Because we keep
You
getting
guys
more
are
of
for a world of
these
hurt.
incidents that people are reporting. I think with as technology gets more ubiquitous and democratized, people have more access to imagery and things like that. It's just impossible to deny. And for the first time ever, at least in my lifetime, as a result of I think that hearing and the destigmatization of this process, because the other problem was even if you had legit like Top Gun pilots coming forward, they were getting ridiculed by all the people that they worked with.
Mav?
I mean, Mav, Iceman, Goose,
What?
Rooster.
Yeah,
People talking shit on Mav.
Can't have that.
Fools.
I didn't know
Guy,
Mav was coming out saying
doesn't
stuff
age.
like that.
Yeah.
It doesn't age.
Mission
So-
Impossible coming up.
So now with this whistleblower process, people are coming out of the woodwork. We've also had people separately that are going public and doing interviews based on claims that they're making. Dave
Oh, yeah.
Brush didn't.
All of your comments are so damn funny. Thank you guys. You've been so sweet in the comments. Bill Murray background. I painted that, by the way. Thank you. That's very kind of you. And you're welcome, Sheldon. And B. Baker, you're right. This is proof of an alien craft right up my shirt. It's got the diagram of it and everything, so you can know exactly what everything is. Thanks, Toby. All right, let's do it.
Did an interview with the debrief.
This is
also
interesting.
had people. So now with this whistleblower.
He's quoting the debrief, the article that every single serious news entity passed on, except for the debrief. And Congressman's plugging them. It's interesting. It's just interesting. It's interesting. This is the information that the congressman is pulling. This is his evidence, because all of this shit so far sounds really familiar. Red flag number 2. He's pulling information from the debrief and what Rubio told him. And who knows what sort of donors he has from or backers from the military industrial complex to push this stuff. To again, maybe muddy or add smokescreen to black tech. You just don't know. It's not that being real. That scenario being real is a lot more probable and realistic than aliens visiting just the United States and just crashing basically here.
Whistleblower process, people are coming out of the woodwork. We've also had people separately that are going public and doing interviews based on claims that they're making. Dave Brush did an interview with the debrief.
Just weird, man. Like he lays it out like it's like a big thing. Like this is some proof, and this is proof, and this is proof, even though none of the shit that you are talking about is actually proof.
There's Chris Mellon has written an op-ed recently, and
Chris Mellon wrote an op-ed. They have no clue who Chris Mellon is. Zero clue. Not one guy in that room knows who Christopher Mellon is.
claiming that there is
An op-ed from Chris Mellon. That's like the thing he's laying on the table. Dude, check this out. Op-ed by Christopher Mellon.
a long-standing program to reverse engineer crash materials that people have discovered on the Earth that could have extraterrestrial origins. So all this discussion is happening out in the open like nothing I've seen. And I think it's a result of the hearing and the legislation. We've still got a long way to go, but it's coming out there.
Yeah, whistleblower said that we have craft and being.
Oh, yeah.
And then Holly, Josh.
Josh Holly.
Now, I wonder if that whistleblower is Dave Grush, who I think everybody is not saying he's a liar, not saying he's wrong, but saying that it's unverifiable. That's a fact. All of the things he claims are unverifiable, and they're all things that he hasn't seen, and he's never been a part of any of the programs that he's discussed. So he doesn't have any firsthand knowledge of these things actually existing. So I think that's who he's referencing when he says whistleblower that just came out and talked about alien bodies. Because in the News Nation or the Newsmax segment, he talks about alien bodies. But Leslie Kean and Ralph Blumenthal they didn't want to go there for the debrief. That's not something they wanted to touch at all. It's weird AF. It's a weird story, and the fact that they're pushing this garbage is wild. But this is like, again, an everyday schmo. Pat McAfee and AJ Hawk. AJ Hawk might have a little bit more of a nose for what's going on politically, but Pat McAfee has no clue. And he is taking Grush's word. That's real to him. That actually happened. The congressman does not correct him on going, well, those are his claims. Let me just make this clear. Those are his claims. You know, there's no pulling back. There's no, whoa, partner. There's a little bit later on, and it slips out once they push him on some crazy scenarios, but we'll see. Let's keep going.
Josh Hawley.
Senator.
I almost dropped a Todd in there. So he's from the different side over there, right? And Rubio spoke about this. They've basically come out and said, what we've been hearing is very similar to what this whistleblower has heard. Is that from the hearings that you guys set up from this new Aliens Act where you have to sign NDA? And is everybody kind of telling the same exact thing?
Again, I have
why
to
is
be
he laughing
very
at
careful.
that?
Is that from
Why, when he says Aliens Act, that's the term he used. Or the Alien Bill. It's very close. He called it the Alien Act, as if like it's an act that kind of, yeah, okay. I guess I see why he kind of laughs, but that's the problem, man, when you're not careful with your words as a lawmaker. Now it's the Alien Act. It went from Alien Bill to Alien Act.
that from the hearings that you guys set up from this new Aliens Act where you have to sign NDA? And is everybody kind of telling the same exact thing?
Again, I have to be very careful protecting the whistleblower process, but it is through the whistleblower process that people are contacting Congress and going through a debrief process where they're saying they've been part of this or that program. And we can't reveal the precise nature of what's been said, but we've had a variety of pretty intense conversations.
How do you guys lay that out, you think? Once we get enough information, you guys just say, all right.
Been part of this and that program. So apparently there's witnesses that have come to Congress that have said, I was part of program such and such. That's interesting. It's not proof of anything. Because if we know how the government especially works when it comes to top secret tech, sometimes one hand doesn't know what the other is doing. And what might seem alien on one side isn't alien at all. Sounds like somebody's either walking down the stairs or knocking at the door. I don't think anybody's knocking at the door. All right, let us continue.
All right, flop them out. This is the alien. This is the UFO. How does that information kind of get rolled? Because the boys have some ideas.
Oh, yeah.
You know, there's a lot of different ways we can go about it. Do we know if they play sports? And we would obviously like to get involved in that entire aspect. We'd like to compete if they would like to compete. And if they want to fight, we got some motherfuckers too. You know, if they want to do that, we can do it. But how do you feel like the rollout, introduction to the world would go about actual aliens and UFOs if you were to have it?
So part of the homework we gave Arrow is they have to do twice a year, they have to give us a classified briefing. And once a year, they have to do an unclassified briefing. Usually when we get these unclassified briefings in written or in spoken form, they're unsatisfying. They don't really go into the details. So I think once we've compiled all this information, and there's other stuff we have to do, we're going to pass hopefully another piece of legislation that Rubio is doing in the Senate and I'll do in the House, which basically says if you are part of any reverse engineering, crashed exotic materials recovery program, you are not allowed to access any government dollars, but we'll offer you amnesty to come forward and report to us. Because the claim that Dave Grush and others are making is that these programs exist and they're in violation of the law because Congress is unaware of them. So we have to smoke that out in order just to examine that claim. And
Is Dave Grush making that claim? Or is that something maybe Christopher Mellon has said and Lou Elizondo has said? I mean, these are all things we've heard before. And if it's true, again, there should be hundreds of people knocking on the door of Congress. Not tens, hundreds. Safety in numbers. If there's already tens, let's say 20, 25, that should be enough of a snowball effect to get hundreds. It really should be. We'll see.
And I think if we have a better body of evidence, then we could come forward with it. I am in favor of transparency on this. I think the American people,
that's gonna be a shock factor, though.
So
Yeah,
people
big
are
time.
I mean, that's gonna fuck up a lot of shit.
well, it's not the worst case scenario, though. Think about it. I would actually, depending on what the intention of the aliens are, if indeed it is extraterrestrial. And last time I was here, we went through all the different hypotheses, right? To include the Terminator hypothesis.
So hold on, though.
Cool.
I mean, it's wild that he's saying aliens. It's wild. That is wild that he's saying aliens. But again, look at this setting. You know, that's what they're hypothesizing about. That's what that's what everybody wants to hear. That's the buzzword. Aliens.
Us from the future.
If maybe it is potentially time travelers or whatever, which would be crazy. That would be absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
Probably that orange globe we
Yeah,
saw.
the portal. Yeah.
Yeah, we all saw that. But if it was, which some people just try to write it off as, and I know AJ and all the boys have questions, I apologize here, but if they were to write it off as foreign threat or like a different country stuff, we're still fucked, right? Because they have stuff that can do stuff that we don't have, right?
Well, that's my point. That, in my opinion, could be the worst case scenario. If it's China or Russia and they have advanced technology
that we can't even sniff, right?
we can't even understand the physics of it. I mean, some of the things are going Mach 5 and changing direction. I mean,
But if it was them, they would already use that, right?
in what scenario? That we haven't fought, a force-on-force great power conflict with either. I mean, we get basically involved in the proxy war in Ukraine right now, but we haven't gone. Last time the Chinese fought a war was 79 against the Vietnamese. Didn't end well for them. So
they send a balloon over to say, "This is what you guys got."
Yeah.
Well, that's the other thing that's happened, right? So in addition to people coming out of the woodwork, people going public to the media with their reports, we had 4 balloons shot down over North America, which I don't remember the last time that's ever happened. Now, one of these, the Chinese spy balloon, we've been briefed on, but the other 3, including one that went over Lambeau Field, Ty, all right? That was when
I know
they
you're a big
crossed.
Packer fan, I agree.
right.
Team looks new this year. I don't know if they're going to have any aliens on it, but
Yeah.
Maybe.
one certainly left town, went to play for
Jordan
the
Love
Jets.
might be an alien.
Yeah, we don't know.
With his
Deep
voice.
voice.
Deep voice.
Good player. Anyway, AJ, you have any questions for Congressman Gallagher?
Yeah, I do. You mentioned committees. I know you're on multiple committees. Aren't you on a committee has to do something with China? What is that doing? And what do you think? Other question would be, when people try to tell you this is a big distraction from something going on, what's your answer to that? What does that even mean? What are we just getting distracted from?
Well, let me take it.
That's 2 great questions from AJ Hawk. That's why I think he's a little bit more hip to the game when it comes to the political. He doesn't even want to talk about aliens. He doesn't give a shit. He doesn't think there's anything to this. That's my take on AJ Hawk's take on aliens. That's just I don't know if that's what he thinks, but yeah. It's just interesting that he doesn't even want to talk about that.
Taking a
At all times, you're saying, not just right now, right?
Well, you
But
mean
yeah,
like
right now
aliens as
especially.
a distraction. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, there's stuff
And
appearing
he's
on our
using, and it's a great question because he's asking if this alien discussion is a distraction to other things. It's a good question.
training ranges, and we don't understand where it's coming from. So as someone who focuses on defense and the defense competition with China, we have to figure that out. We have to be able to control our Rangers. Otherwise, you're putting pilots.
That's why you're so passionate behind
in
this.
jeopardy, right? That was my entry point into it. And also now I'm just curious about answering the question. I think there's actually a bigger issue too of people losing trust in government, trust in institutions. This should be an opportunity for the government to be transparent. If we have information that disconfirms the UAP the extraterrestrial hypothesis or all these other ones, at least shows the government doing something competent and being forward-leaning by declassifying information to the.
That sounds familiar, doesn't it? Sounds like something we said on the Big Phone Home. Like, it's a great opportunity for the government to be transparent and win a little trust with the people. And that still holds true today. And that's my question. That is the moment right there that I really wanted to focus on for the believers of this side of the discussion. Because it's, if we get to the bottom of this and there's no UAP thing there, we're going to tell you there's no UAP thing there. But I think that folks like Congressman Gallagher and Kirsten Gillibrand and Marco Rubio and the other lawmakers that pushed this bill through, I think they're going to quickly find out that if that is the answer that they give the community, oh man, they're in for a world of hurt from a bunch of really kooky people online. A lot more harassment than you were getting before, or you're getting now. I don't imagine Mike Gallagher's getting a ton of harassment. The UFO people love him right now. But I think they missed this part right here. And this is important because to me, it tells me that Mike Gallagher is genuinely looking to get to the bottom of this. I think part of him one of his ears has been taken by Christopher Mellon or Lou Elizondo, people within the Arrow office like Gary Nolan, or well, when it wasn't Arrow, when it was a UAPTF, maybe Travis Taylor, folks like that, throwing out hypotheses and, you know, him reading articles on the debrief, like him knowing, I think he knows a surface level stuff about what's happening in the UAP discussion. But his entry level to this was weird things over our training ranges and military bases. Weird things just floating there and looking like they're checking us out. Oh, gosh, I wonder who that could be. And that these balloons or these things that are floating look weird. They're strange when they are reported on. And our pilots don't really have the hardware to sometimes shoot these things down that are barely moving, if moving at all. They want to know if it is China. Like, that's a genuine question, but I don't think when and if they do get to the bottom of this, I don't think they're going to find that it's China. I think they're going to find that it's our tech. And if it is our tech, I'm curious to know what the answer will be then. How will they assure the American people without telling the American people publicly that we're just covering up tech, that this is actually ours? These weird things that are reported are actually our tech, classified tech that we can't tell you about. I don't think they're just going to come out and say that. I think they're going to give a very unsatisfactory answer to what people are saying. I think they're going to write it off as those 4 or 5, I can't remember, was it 5 columns that we got from the UAPTF report, congressional report last year, you know, like the bins that these things fit into. I think that those bins are going to be the things that are referenced when this is all said and done. I don't think there'll be any clarity on it whatsoever. But we'll see. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. But I think this, again, this exchange right here, I think very much tells you why Mike Gallagher is in
defense
this.
competition with China. We have to figure that out. We have to be able to control our Rangers. Otherwise, you're putting pilots.
That's why you're so passionate behind
in
this.
jeopardy, right? That was my entry point into it. And also now I'm just curious about answering the question. I think there's actually a bigger issue too of people losing trust in government, trust in institutions. This should be an opportunity for the government to be transparent. If we have information that disconfirms the UAP the extraterrestrial hypothesis or all these other ones, at least shows the government doing something competent and being forward-leaning by declassifying information to the public. So for those 2 reasons alone, I think it's worthy of investigation. And the third one that I'm probably most interested in is whether it's adversary technology, particularly China. So I chair the Select Committee on the Chinese Communist Party in the House, and we're in charge of developing a comprehensive strategy for how we beat the CCP over the long term. In my opinion, the CCP is by far the biggest threat we faced. In some ways, it's bigger and more complex than the threat we faced from the old Soviet Union and the old Cold War, and beating the Chinese as they attempt to do a variety of things to undermine our sovereignty, you know, send fentanyl into America, killing 80,000 Americans a year, threaten war in the Pacific by threatening to take Taiwan. That, to me, is the biggest national security issue. That's what I'm in charge of in the House, and this is a small subset of that overall effort if it's adversary.
Got it. So that's how you tie into it, because if it is who you are supposed to be trying to keep up with, you were just trying to tell everybody, we're fucked. If they got this, I don't know if I got the plan. We're going to have to grab some other people, maybe some outer worldly thoughts, and kind of get it going. Do you think around Washington there is like a lot of obstacles for you to get this answer? Isn't Washington just like, I don't know much about your world, okay? At all. On purpose. I try to stay out of it. Seems like everybody that gets into your world, miserable. Our friend Anthony Gonzalez,
Man, you guys
one of the best guys of all time.
Cut him down at the knees.
He got into politics. We told him, pal, what are you doing? Don't go in there. Everybody that I know in real life that gets into politics, they just literally spend their time yelling at people. They have zero expectation of changing the way they think. They don't think they're going to be able to change the way other people think. They're just always pissed off. I try to stay out of it, like just for the good of me. At some point in my life, I'm going to have to pay attention. I get that. But now is not the time, and hopefully not in the foreseeable future, because I'm enjoying what I got going on. But you guys never get shit done, right? Isn't that kind of what the whole thing about Washington is? You guys just yell at each other the entire time? Who's yelling at you, stopping you from leaking or finding out the actual alien stuff? Is there like an actual adversary that doesn't want anybody to know anything? And then why aren't we just questioning that person?
Well, I think so. First of all, on China, I think there's actually a lot of bipartisan interest. Like, we're working together.
Hell
Democrats
yeah.
on our
Okay.
committee.
Hell yeah.
I think your average American, even like who doesn't follow politics, is on board with us beating the Chi-Coms in this competition.
Yes.
Is that what you guys say in like group text, the Chi-Coms?
Chi-Coms, yeah. Chinese Communist Party, Chi-Coms, yeah.
Okay.
CCP.
Godless
I'm worried about
communists.
the Chi-Coms with this guy.
Yeah.
Hey, good luck out there. Good luck out there, Chi-Coms.
I think actually the biggest source of resistance is just people. It's almost like they're embarrassed to talk about the topic, right? They think they're going to be labeled a crazy tinfoil hat, conspiracy theory, Looney Tunes person. So just by having these discussions out in the open, I think it goes a long way. And most of the resistance is just from the bureaucracy in the Defense Department and in the intelligence community. I have about 5 requests right now of the intelligence community, things they owe me to come back on related to UAP stuff. And they're deficient on all these requests. So
that might not come for what, a year, 2 years, 6 months?
Maybe. I mean, so that historical report is due next summer, and my understanding is they haven't even started drafting it right now. So I'm worried that they won't.
That's getting pushed.
Yeah. So,
okay.
Yeah, that's going to be pushed more than Avatar.
Yeah.
Which have we asked about? That might be
it could be
James Cameron, maybe.
Well, so the other hypothesis we didn't talk about last time is that this could, as opposed to being us from the future, it could actually be an ancient civilization that's just been hiding here. For all this time,
like Transformers,
and it's suddenly showing itself right now.
This is red flag number 3, 4. The mention of bureaucracy within the system, and first of all, it always takes long. It's slow on purpose. It's designed to be slow. Everyone knows that. But besides that, just the language in which he uses, again, sounds very similar to that of Christopher Mellon. Sounds very similar to that of Lou Elizondo. These are the same complaints, the same things. It's just, again, there's parts of this that are just, it's just really weird. Now we're talking about, instead of aliens and theorizing about future people, and now it's ancient civilizations that have been here the whole time. It's the Wakanda theory. Like, it's insulting, man. It's insulting to science. It really, really is. That we're just throwing shit like this out there as a lawmaker. This is what you're telling everyday people on a podcast that has 2.21 million followers. That a guy that just got a huge multi-million contract from ESPN. Like, this is the everyday American. This is the average schmo. And you're throwing the wildest conspiracy theory out there with zero proof. Zero proof of it. And if, again, this is the shit you're pulling from Mike Gallagher, I am worried. I'm dying to know who gave you the Wilson Davis documents. And I wonder if you actually reached out to Admiral Wilson. Because as a sitting congressman, you should be able to maybe actually communicate with him, and he'll tell you unequivocally it's bullshit. So half of the Wilson Davis documents that you put into congressional record, half of the document unequivocally denies it. These are the things that Congressman Mike Gallagher is pulling from. It worries me, man. It worries me. It really worries me who the witnesses are, who has come forward, who wasn't credible enough. I mean, manage your expectations. I'm telling you right now, because a book is not going to save your belief system. It's not going to be proof. There's nothing in that book that is going to come out that is proof of anything. I'll bet almost any amount of money on that. Money I don't have. There's nothing coming out in that book, guys. There's no big bombs coming. I promise you. I promise you. But only time will tell.
I'll smack those old fucks in the mouth.
Yeah, okay. Huh.
I want to let you know. If they're from this planet, I feel good about us.
Yeah.
Pat, this is why we need you to get involved in politics. On
The
an
answer
alien
is no.
platform.
No
Just
way.
a single issue voter.
Nah.
No.
Like Ted and University.
Nah, I don't need to get into any of it. That's the thing. I'm thankful that you're out there.
Yeah,
you
big.
think more of you people are good people or than bad people?
I would say this. When I ran in 2016.
Oh, that's a no.
Yeah, okay. It's when I ran in 2016, I thought the problem with Congress is that it was just all corrupt and super old people. And certainly we have too many people that have been there for too long, right? This is why we need term limits.
Well, those kind of go hand in hand, don't they?
Yeah, and the more you get there, the more swampy you get. And then these people go and they lobby for, this company or that, or they lobby on behalf of the Chinese Communist Party, actually, because our Foreign Agent Registration Act processes are totally filled with loopholes.
We can't even get Gumpy in here. What are we talking about? We got Chi-Com people in here?
What the hell?
What is the deal, AJ?
I actually think there's a lot of, people that come in who want to do the right thing. We're getting a lot of new members, young members, people from the private sector, people from the military. And in some ways, I've changed my opinion. I'm not sure the problem is just the people per se, but the people find themselves in a process that sucks, where you basically have to choose, okay, am I going to do 20 years in order to get to a position of influence? And then finally, if I make it up that greasy pole, maybe I'll be a committee chair, and I'll be able to do the things that I first wanted to do when I came in. Or they're just like, I'll just be a bomb thrower on social media or on cable news, and I won't be constructive at all. So it's the process that I think takes good people, and it just chews them up and it spits them out. So fixing the process and reforming the institution of Congress, I think, is the thing you need to get better people to run in the first place, but also get those people to perform when they're in there.
Yeah, so that's never going to happen. Sweet. My only take on it all is like, I can't separate the political pundits from the politicians.
Yeah.
Like, hey, if you're a political pundit or activist, like, all right, I get you being vocally everything.
Yeah.
But if you're a politician, like, yeah, your ass is in there to fucking enact this stuff. We don't need you starting all the, like, I think there's no separation between the activists and the politicians. Like, politician's supposed to execute what the activist is looking for, but it feels like when the politician happens, this is very slight knowledge of the situation. It feels like they just become activists in a chair as opposed to somebody that actually gets stuff done, like in reality. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think as Congress gets weaker, and
that's the one you're in.
Well, yeah. Well, Congress is both the Senate and the House.
Fuck.
Which is the one he's in.
He's definitely in it.
I'm in it.
That's what I've
you're
been saying
right.
this whole time.
I'm one of 435 in the House as opposed to 100 senators. So as Congress gets weaker, which is actually a scenario the framers did not anticipate. They were concerned Congress would get too powerful. And they said it would suck everything into its impetuous vortex, was the phrase they used. What's happened in the modern era, really starting in the 70s, the executive branch, the president and all the executive branch agencies has grown more and more powerful. Morgan. Congress has delegated all its responsibility, but members of Congress are still power hungry, and they want to, they want to be famous and they want influence. So they're going to the route of media in order to increase their power and influence. So they're becoming kind of like C-list social media celebrities as politicians as opposed to constructive legislators.
Yeah, you're going to become C-list celebrity.
Just get on there talking shit.
Yeah, that whole thing. I don't want to say that I have no hope for it all, but I don't know enough about it to have hope. I liked hearing that you've changed your mindset, though.
Yeah.
You know, you said it, just thought everybody was corrupt or old. Now it's a little bit different. That's good news. You've been in there. We have not.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to hear that you're at least coming on here for this particular discussion. I feel like that's at least a step in the right direction. Go ahead, Connor.
Yeah, Congressman Gallagher. At the point, at this point on the internet, it's almost like you see a different, alien video every day. Whether legitimately yesterday there was some, sphere similar to what Pat said that he saw and it was splitting, and it was in Vegas, and it just happened. Then in Vegas the other day, that family where a kid gave like a 6-minute testimonial about what that was about and how they heard stuff on the roof and everything like that. But there was one recently, and it was about a guy in the military. And he said that he actually saw a bunch of things being loaded onto some massive ship, and then the ship disappeared. And then after that, someone came up to him in a uniform, but no labels, no name tag or anything, no specific country. And
This is what happens when you say alien bill. These are the kind of questions you get right here and stories you get. Hey, Senator, Congressman, check out my cell phone. I'm sure this picture I have is way better than anything you've seen in a private congressional setting or classified congressional setting.
And so I'm not going to ask about some secret shit like that, but
I'm not
is
going to
there
ask
some
about
sort of
secret
thought
shit like this.
put it onto some massive ship, and then the ship disappeared? And then after that,
Not gonna ask
someone
about
came
this.
up to him in a uniform, but no labels, no name tag or anything, no specific country. And so I'm not going to ask about some secret shit like that, but is there some sort of thought that if there was, aliens and the threat that they would want Earth for themselves, that the countries would kind of have to come together in some sort
like
of like, hey,
Independence Day?
obviously the CCP can go to hell, and we don't love what a lot of communists are doing, and I won't mention anybody else, whether
got it, buddy.
there are specific people who are on shirts in this
Independence Day.
room.
Yeah, I
but
saw
isn't
the
that a worry that if
Bill Belichick?
No, Thanos. This is kind of like a Thanos
That's
shirt.
Bill Belichick.
No,
It's definitely Independence
Bill
Day.
Belichick's not a communist. I can
No, we agree. Yeah,
I can take
that's
that.
why what you were saying was crazy.
Just anybody's shot. I wasn't sure if AJ had his Chuck Berry on underneath his or anything like that, or anything specific, just in general. But is there some sort of thought or at least conversation, not the United States with the CCP, but even Canada, Mexico, London, or England?
talking
Yeah,
about the
exactly. Like, is there
ships
a kind of emergency plan
Canada.
that the world almost has if things do go very, very badly in this type of alien war?
So if there's an emergency
Alien
plan,
war.
I haven't seen it. One of the arguments people make for transparency, for if there's information, just get it out there, even though the shock value would be high for sure, is that it might actually spark collaboration across country, even potentially with China, at a time when geopolitical hostility is super high. Yeah, which would create a lot interesting situation for me, given that my day job
Sounds
is
like
to figure out how to
Independence
beat
Day.
the CCP.
Hell yeah.
And if
Yeah,
we
you
got
just
to work
gotta
with
put-
them on the aliens,
You
that's
got to put your swords aside.
Yeah, exactly. Sure, it's not.
Hey, listen, we're all, I'm going to deal with you, though, okay? But not now,
For now.
because we got a little something coming.
Put our swords down.
They're talking about loading heavy machinery onto it.
Yeah, and then
And it was like 300 yards long, it said.
yeah,
right?
3 football fields.
300.
Three
Always
football fields
300,
long, and
always
then it
three
just
football
vanished out of
fields.
nowhere.
No
Always
sounds or
300
anything.
yards.
That person could just been making it
long.
up, but it sounds like too many people are
always
making
the size
fucking
of a
things up at
Walmart.
this point.
Well, that's probably, I mean, we have over 500 reports since, I think, 3 years ago when some of this stuff started in earnest. The overwhelming majority of those are not going to be legit, right? They could either be explained away by natural weather phenomenon or, the observer error. But there still remains a subset of reports that people can't explain away. I mean, obviously the most prominent one is the Tic Tac video, which is you can't discredit the pilots because they're legit pilots. Even some of these people that have come forward, like Dave Grush, who's the most prominent, he's the
Okay, so the Tic Tac video, we don't have all of the data for the Tic Tac video to determine whether or not 100% definitively what it is. There's not enough data on the Tic Tac video to make that statement. The second is that the eyewitness testimony from both David Fravor and Alex Dietrich are wildly different. Wildly different. Too different to be a coincidence. Alex Dietrich sees it for 5 seconds David Fravor chases it for 15 minutes. Just a massive, massive difference in the eyewitness testimony from both of those pilots on the same event. Too big. Also, not to mention that Alex Dietrich's husband was part of the UAPTF. Why is nobody talking about that? Why is that not a bigger deal? Like, that's like, it almost feels like insider trading. Like, why was that not ever brought up on her Whirlwind podcast 60 Minutes tour? That her husband just so happened to be part of the Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force. I love also that she says how she doesn't think about this experience. It doesn't define her life. But yet every single post that she has on Twitter is about UFOs. Every single post. It's wild, man. Paul V says Gallagher was intel before politics. I mean, it wouldn't shock me. A lot of these guys are intel guys, counter-intel guys, counterintelligence guys writing books and selling TV shows and movie scripts. Gee, I wonder what it could be. I wonder what it could be.
He's the elephant in the room right now. He's an Air Force veteran.
Who's Dave Grush?
He is an Air Force veteran with tours in Afghanistan. He worked in the intelligence community for a long time at both the National Reconnaissance Office and the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. He has now done an interview with The Debrief. He did a public interview. I forget on what platform, where he's making the claim that there has been a long-standing program whereby people find materials, and one of his claims is that there's intact machinery and craft that they found that is not of this world, that's exotic or extraterrestrial in its origin.
Sounds a lot like Eric Davis. What if Eric Davis talked to the senator?
And that we study these in an effort to reverse engineer it. That's the claim that Dave Grush is making publicly.
And you guys are saying it's illegal because Congress doesn't know about it. Then
that's not really the claim he's making. He's saying that he heard it from a guy that told him those things. He didn't witness those things. He didn't work on those things. He wasn't read in on those things. He heard it from a guy.
Saying this program.
Not to mention the body language experts that did an analysis on David Grush. All of them thought he was full of shit. All of them said he was acting. It's not a science, but again, we did an analysis of that analysis and how they all eventually come to the same just frustration and feeling of like hitting a dead end with the David Grush story and how elements of it felt really manipulative. And this is the guy that we're putting on the pedestal now. This is the new guy. This is the new guy. But I think that Lou Elizondo is going to have one last hurrah before he goes off into the sunset. And also, somebody brought up an interesting point the other day. Lou Elizondo's been posting pictures of his wife and his family and his kid online. I thought he was afraid of terrorists. And that's why he would never show that kind of stuff, because he was on a kill list. Now he's in Europe sharing pictures in Europe, way closer to the terrorists than he is in back here in the States. And is it Idaho? I always think it's Idaho for some reason. I know it's not Idaho. It's not Illinois. It's one of the I's, right? Iowa? Where the hell does that guy live again? South Dakota. Wyoming. Thanks, East Coast Tina. Wyoming. It's weird, right? It's weird all of a sudden now. All of these people's faces are able to be seen. Just strange timing.
Program is illegal because it's not subject to regular oversight by Congress.
Got it.
We're trying to figure out if such programs exist and create a mechanism through which people could come and talk to us about it. So then we can figure out, A, is it legitimate information, and B, what the hell do we do about it?
That seems like a pretty legit guy, though, saying something pretty serious.
Yeah.
If not him, then who do you talk to? Intelligence committee this guy's on?
IMF.
And about
Bingo.
the impossible mission
Forces.
Forces, obviously, a Mission Impossible, same thing.
So that's the clip, you guys. That's the old 1-2. I mean, what do you guys think, man? I feel like the congressman is setting himself up so when the proof doesn't come out to be alien, it turns out to be something else. Again, if that's mundane, if that's extraordinary, let's wait and see. But definitely setting himself up so when it's not aliens, he could always go back to this conversation and say, just go listen to what I said. Because I did say that. I did say it could be adversarial, and that worried me actually more than it being alien, which is a crazy statement to say. That's a crazy thing to say. China worries you more than an alien species visiting our planet and putting craft over our training ranges? I don't think that's the order you put those in. Could be wrong. I didn't see that William Calatano or Catalano. William, send me the link and the timestamp, or send me the timestamp of when that happens, and we'll play it right now. Because I kind of actually, you can get my live reaction to that because I didn't see it. You don't have to send me the I can find the video. I know where the video is, but if you have the timestamp, let me know, and I'll totally play it right now.
Here's
when I started listening, yeah, I mean, Stephen Greenstreet, we had a funny conversation on the phone about this, and yeah, he asked me if I had seen it yet, and I hadn't. He usually timestamps these things. Yeah, let me know if you guys have a timestamp on when he goes off on Greer. He says a lot of wild shit in this interview. I listened to some of it, but I fell asleep, if I'm being honest. Starts at 2 hours and 23 minutes.
There is a...
All right, let's check it out. Let's go back to our show setup. And let's see what Ross Coulthard has to say. Again, I haven't seen this, and this is award-winning journalist Ross Coulthard talking about another journalist, Stephen Greenstreet. Let's see what he says.
Don't you see? I mean, this is the fundamental problem, Kurt, is there is a willful failure by media, investigative researchers, politicians to ask the question, why? Why is there that willful failure?
So Ross, about the that you said that there are some leaked videos or leaked evidence or...
I'm so sorry, Kurt. I'm not sure what you're referring to there. Can you be more specific?
Yeah, sure. In the beginning, when we were talking about a complaint is like not that many people from the government come out and there's not that much evidence that's leaked from the government from something that's as large as this.
Oh, okay. I mean, historically, during the course of what Mr. Grush alleges has been a continuing disinformation operation on UAPs, there are people who have come forward. And I note, interestingly enough, Stephen Greer did his disclosure project thing the other day at the National Press Club.
How do you feel about that?
Well, it's interesting. I was inclined because I don't have a very high opinion of Mr. Greer, to be honest. I think on occasion he has misrepresented his communications with government officials and made them sound like briefings. For example, he's claimed to have briefed a former CIA director, and I've engaged with people who've told me the full story, and I don't believe he did a briefing of a CIA director at all. I don't know why he does this, because there are people in the Congress who've told me that some of the witnesses that Stephen Greer has provided to the Congress in secret, who've come forward with evidence about the program, have indeed been highly credible witnesses, and they've been taken very, very seriously indeed. I just wish there was more quality control with what Mr. Greer says as he comes through with his claims. I don't want to buy a fight with Stephen Greer, but I think on occasion he has either inadvertently or otherwise misrepresented the way in which he's engaged with government. But I do think that separately from Mr. Greer, there have periodically, publicly, and I'm not going to list them all here because then people will realize who I'm talking about, but there have people periodically bobbed up who have given evidence of their involvement in alleged crash retrieval operations, for example. And there's never really been, if you look at those cases, a satisfactory resolution of whether they're telling the truth or not, because they're clearly people with security clearances. They've clearly worked in the military units that they say they've worked in. And there's never a resolution of whether or not they're telling the truth or not, because, of course, the only arbiter that can actually adjudicate whether they're telling the truth or not is the Defense Department, which, if what Mr. Grush is alleging is true, there are individuals within the Defense Department who have no interest at all in letting this public information out. There's no interest at all in publicizing this information. So that's my problem, is that, yes, periodically through history, I mean, if you go right back to the days of the first director of the CIA, Roscoe Hillenkotter. Roscoe Hillenkotter came out publicly and set up his own UFO investigation organization because he was convinced there was a cover-up. The head of the CIA. You know, people have forgotten their history in America. There've been there's a lovely guy on Twitter, Richard Gildrick, and he's been doing trawling of old media reports and going right back to the 40s and the 50s. There were frequent allegations of recovered flying saucers that featured in the media with first-person witnesses. Very little active work was done to investigate those because, of course, by that stage, the taboo had been introduced. Media were being taught to ridicule it, and the public was being taught that, you know, if there was anything real there, it was national security and not to be talked about. And people were shut down. I think the evidence is overwhelming that witnesses have been intimidated, that they've been threatened. And indeed, if Mr. Grush is telling the truth, that witnesses have been killed. I mean, that's an horrendous allegation. Again,
witnesses have been killed. Witnesses have been killed for allegedly coming out to reveal crash retrieve programs of alien craft. There was something interesting that somebody had sent me, and I can't find it, and it was about something that Ross Coulthart had done, and it was gosh, I don't want to misremember the story that I read. But basically, he was hired to present. Yeah, I can't even remember it correctly. I want to read it. I don't want to tell this story wrong, but it did not put Ross Coulthart in a very good light, and it showed the lack of rigorous checking that he does when it comes to stories. He's not as credible as he puts on. He's not as award-winning and hard-hitting of a journalist as he puts on. There's a lot of problems with Ross Coulthart. It's funny that he agrees with elements of what Stephen Greer is saying, but not all of it. And doubts his sources. Every single witness that Stephen Greer brought out in that presentation was garbage. The worst witnesses that you could ever possibly imagine. And I have a feeling that some of those witnesses are the ones that didn't pass security clearances when wanting to testify before Congress in a classified setting. I have a feeling all of those guys tried to tell their story before Congress and probably didn't even make it to that level. I have a feeling it's all the people Stephen Greer brought out on that stage. My favorite being the old, Antarctica professional with all the Antarctic patches on his shirt, which made him, of course, totally an expert in all things Antarctica. Damn, dude, where is this thing? I really want to find it. Somebody messaged it to me. I wonder if it's. Let me just check one other thing, you guys. And if I can't find it, we'll end the show. Nope, that's not it, man. Just check one more time here. I'll find it. I will find it, by God. It's also funny to think that there's like pictures now surfacing of David Grush at UFO cons. It's so wild, man. Like, nobody ever wants to talk about this shit. Rather was at that con, and when Rather's here, we'll talk about it. He doesn't think it's that big a deal. I'm not saying it's a big deal, but goddamn, it's doesn't look good. Like, it doesn't look good that the world's biggest whistleblower when it comes to the UFO reality, attends UFO conferences before he became a public whistleblower. I mean, dude, it's kind of bogus, man. Not kinda, it's super bogus. Super bogus, man. Just don't know why we're doing this kind of stuff, man. I cannot believe I can't find this stupid thing. Man, I got the most interesting private message about she who should not be named. And just the story I got about her, boy oh boy. Hilarious. I'm not gonna share it. But it is really funny. Really funny. It was also sad to see Andrew Hall If you guys have been fans or part of the community for a while, you guys know who Andrew Hall is. But yeah, he basically bolted from Twitter after Dan Zetterstrom doxed our buddy Rather Be Squidding and unleashed all 20,000 of his followers into a rampage against him. Oh man. Hold on 1 second, y'all. Sorry, guys. That was so embarrassing. My sister's birthday, and I totally forgot to call her. Thought about her. I had a really busy day. I had an audition. I wanted to come home and do this show because I've been meaning to do this show for the last couple days. And I totally forgot to call her. She just totally busted my balls for it. Rightfully so. But she's cool with it. She's my little baby sis. So happy birthday to my sister, Jessica. So yeah, I just had a funny conversation with her. Anyway, I don't even remember where I was. You guys, this guy right here, just be careful. We're going to do a whole breakdown on Ross Coulthard eventually and all of his double talk and all of his outs, all of these big, huge promises that he makes, while at the same time laying the groundwork for when none of those things come true. He can always say, well, that's not what I said. That's not what I said. Go back, Mike. Go back, Mike, and check out what I said. I don't want to say any of that. No, that's Cockney. I got to work on my Australian. But anyway, you guys, this was a fun show. It was fun. And if I find that article, I'm definitely going to go through my messages and find that article. And because I think it's important. It's an important part of the discussion when it comes to turn that down here a little bit. Turn it up here. There we go. I think it's an important part of the discussion when it comes to Ross Coulthard and his journalistic integrity. I question it. A lot of people don't. Nobody questions it. But his whole cry, like, so let me get this straight. Like, Ross Coulthard is he's the only guy, he's the only journalist that's got it right. Every other American journalist is fucking this whole story up. Ross Coulthard is the only one who's got it right. He's the only one with the guts to report on this story. Is that right? Is that what you're saying, Ross Coulthard? You're 100% on that. We'll see. We shall see. I don't know. I think you're in that. Yeah, we'll see. Doesn't matter. You're selling books. Who cares, right? You're selling audiobooks, which, by the way, I still enjoy that audiobook. It's delightful to listen to your voice. Honestly, it's great to listen to. You're absolutely right, Sheldon. Definitely don't wrong a Latino. Yeah, it's funny. Anyway, you guys, this is a killer show. A lot of fun as always. If you haven't, like, share, subscribe, help us grow into a new channel. All of your support is the way we do it, so truly appreciate it. We're going to be having Rather Be Squidding here in the next few days, I think, hopefully when he gets back into town. If not next week, worst case scenario, we'll have him on next Tuesday. But yeah, I'll get with Rather and see when's the best time to do that. And yeah, like I said, there's a couple of things I still want to cover. There's a lot of things that happen, you know, 4th of July, real life, again, golf courses to go play, auditions to study. But you know, try and do the show as many times as possible for you guys, because I know you're thirsty for different perspectives on this UFO discussion, more grounded, realistic conversation. So I hope you guys enjoy it. I know I enjoy producing it. So that's it. Have a killer night. What's today? Wednesday? Yeah, it's hump day, baby. We're almost there. Almost to the weekend again. Feels it's going to be a short week. We're going to get through it together. Love you all, man. Seriously. Peace.